Hi, this is Kevin with Advanced Leather Solutions. With me today is Dave Sweeney. We're going to demonstrate how to do a color change on this piece of furniture. The client bought this furniture, sits in her house, doesn't particularly like the color anymore, so we're going to take this to a chocolate or more like a coffee bean brown. The client has approved the color, and so we're going to do a video that shows the sequence of events necessary to do a color change. So what we're going to do is we're going to do some testing of the adhesion that's on the leather initially. Then we're going to prime the leather to accept the new color after it's passed the adhesion test. Then we're going to apply the color, do a small test to make sure that the adhesion of the new color is good, and then we're going to top coat it. And so with that, let's start with the very first component, which is to do our initial adhesion testing now. So Dave, how do we do that?
Alright, we're just taking off a piece of masking tape and putting on the leather, scraping it with our nail.
So how hard are you pressing, Dave?
Not very hard, just enough to embed it into the leather.
Okay.
So, and then what we're going to do is just give it a good grip right there.
Alright, so what are we looking for? We're looking
to see if the finish is actually on the piece of tape or still on the leather.
Alright.
Now, if we had bad adhesion, it would be on the tape.
Okay, and if that was the case, what would we do?
If that was the case, then we'd have to prime very aggressively.
So it changes. We're going to now clean the leather. Dave is going to use an exfoliating glove that you see that he has on his hand, and we're going to use our SG5 leather cleaner to clean the leather, and that's going to take any of the potential inhibitors that we have on the leather now that would interfere in some way with adhesion. We're doing this before we prime the leather. Before we go any further though, I want to show you something. Go ahead and take that cushion up. Notice that what we do, we tape all the non-leather components off so that we have a clean finished product. Looks like it came out of the factory. The best way to tape is we tape the perimeter first, all the way around the edge, and then fill in once we've got the perimeter taped with this masking paper. We want to make sure we do a careful job on taping off so that when done, it's a truly professional job. So talk to me about the cleaning step, Dave. What are you going to do?
All right, well first what I'm going to do is make about a quarter-sized dollop on my hand.
Okay.
And then I'm going to rub in a circular manner.
The cleaner is a surfactant-based cleaner that of course we make here at Advanced Leather Solutions. It has excellent cleaning properties. It lifts the soil off of the leather, and that's what Dave's talking about, leaving it on for about a minute to give it an opportunity to do its thing. Look at the soiling coming up. Okay.
And it's good to go right down the crease lines with your finger. They get deep down inside the creases rather than going just directly across.
So that's one reason why this glove really helps, because it gives you good. You don't want the cleaner to dry. You want to make sure that you keep it moist. Otherwise, it's just going to be more difficult to take off the soapy residue. You can use a towel. We prefer using the Scott Rags, which is basically a paper towel produced by the Scott Paper Company. It's sort of an industrial grade towel. Look at the soiling coming up. Okay, a second pass is necessary. Right. And so you want to turn the rag, of course, to a clean section so that you're not just moving the dirt around on the piece. So once the piece is clean, we're then able to actually begin the main priming step, which is the application of a primer to the leather that accelerates or enhances, I should say, the adhesion necessary to drive the primer into the fiber structure. If there was chafed leather on this piece, we would then also sand the leather to knock down that chafing before we actually began the priming process. But if there was chafed leather, that means that the pores of the leather are open, or the actual leather itself is open, no longer covered with a finish. In which case we would use our PR1 primer, which is the primer that is intended for unfinished leather. So if it's an unfinished leather, you would actually drive the primer in using the scratchy pad in the very high use areas, the tops of the seats, the tops of the arms. The inside backrest, you may use an exfoliating glove, and you can use the exfoliating glove on the side panels as well. We call this actually a priming glove. Or you can just do a simple wipe on. And so with that, Dave's going to pick it up for actually how we're going to prime this piece using a wipe-on process, because the leather is in excellent shape and we don't need to be very aggressive. So go ahead, Dave.
Alright, so all we're going to do is soak a white rag and then just with medium force just rub into the leather.
Alright.
And you'll see that some color comes up, but it will be all right because we're going to be refinishing it.
What we're going to demonstrate is the color application of the base color. And so Dave, why don't you take it off from there?
Okay, so what we're going to do is apply the base color, and how we're going to do it is we're going to get a standard spray gun.
So that's an HVLP gun, isn't it, right?
HVLP.
All right.
And what we're going to do is just adjust the pressure to make to have the right pebble droplets. And here, what we want to do is have a fine pebble droplet, so it's not so it breaks on contact when it hits the surface. All right, and so...
and what's the deal with the brush?
The first thing what we're going to do is use a brush as we spray, and we're going to be brushing it in to get into the all the grains of the leather.
Okay, so the mechanical action of brushing actually helps to drive the color into the leather.
Sure. It helps to have it adhere to.
So this is what the cushion looks like after one pass of color. Notice how blotchy the color is. You should expect that. Remember, one of the objectives is to apply light coats. Dave is heating it and then basically getting the water content of the finishes out of the mixture. And as soon as that's fully dry, we're then going to be able to apply the next color coat. But keep in mind that each color coat requires as light a hand as possible. You don't want to put a lot of color on. Rather, you want to build the color up slowly, and so you can see how blotchy that first color coat is. Now we've had 3 color coats on this cushion casing, and there's a couple of things that we want to do. Number one, I want to point out that there's some close-in work that we have to do. So Dave, talk about that.
Okay, because it was a complete color change from orange to brown, we could see in the crease lines and all the crevices that we could see that the orange is still presenting itself.
So how do we deal with it?
So how we're going to deal with it is with a small air gun, a Vega, with that you can control it to a fine point that you can actually get into the crease lines and control the amount of color that you actually want to get in there so it doesn't puddle.
So a Vega is a brand name. You could use whatever airbrush you want, but you just have to make sure you have good control with the airflow.
Sure. Or you could even use a small paintbrush.
Okay, good. All right, so now the real test is how's this finish going to hold up? We put 3 coats down, and so we want to do a tape test to make sure that we actually have appropriate adhesion. So go ahead, Dave, let's do the tape test.
All right, so we'll just place the masking tape and we'll scratch it in with our fingernail. All right, and then we'll pull.
Let's take a look.
Pretty fast, and we don't see any finish on it.
So it looks like we've got excellent adhesion. Of course, that's what we want.